And we're live.
Good evening. I call the regular council meeting for September 14th to order. This meeting electronically in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Act, which provides for electronic emergency has been declared to exist in all or in part of the municipality. Hence, at this regular council meeting will not be permitted. However, members of the public may observe accessing the live webcast on the Town of Shelburne YouTube page, and any correspondence related this may be submitted via email to our clerk at jwilloughby. So I ask everybody to join us in the playing of the national anthem. Thank you. We'd also like to take this on to acknowledge the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, including the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, Chippewa, Fires Confederacy. Are there any members of council with pecuniary for any item on the agenda tonight? Don't see any throughout the meeting. You can declare and then follow up in writing with the clerk. So with that, we'll move on to adoption of the minutes. Can I have a motion to receive the minutes October 24th, 2020 council meeting? A motion to approve. Moved by Councillor Fegan, seconded by Councillor Buffett. Discussion on those minutes? All in favor? It's carried. Public question. Any questions submitted, Jennifer?
No, Your Worship, there are no questions submitted for this evening.
Thank you. So on to presentations. So we're joined tonight by Dufferin Community. Gord Gallagher is joining us. Is there anybody else with you, Gord, or one-man show tonight?
Sorry. Yes, it's a one-man show.
Excellent. Hey.
Okay. I trust that you can all hear me okay. I'm not at home today. I am doing this, as you may be able to tell from my vehicle, in front of a service station along the highway. So I will probably stop my video feed for most of it just to save bandwidth, if that's okay. And I think I should be able to share my screen now. Okay. Okay. I was around to we met with Shelburne Council about this the Dufferin Community Foundation somewhere between 3 and 4 years ago, and Shelburne is one of our very early supporters, I have to say. and we appreciate that. So we are going around at this point and doing a report to community to try to let you know how we have progressed in that period of time. Some couple of you at least have probably seen or heard this before. My apologies to you, but for the rest of you, hopefully there's something to be gained from it. First of all, just to tell you very quickly to review what a community foundation is. Community foundations build permanently invested, or what we call endowed funds. So from donors' gifts of cash or the like, we invest it. We do not spend that. The income from it then we spend on an annual basis in the form of grants to support eligible charities within our community. And that money, since it's permanently invested, we're able to spin some streams of income forever. We are what we call place-based. That means that we live, work, and grant only to charities serving our community, serving Dufferin County. We like to say that if you have money, you need to know us. If you need money, you need to know us. We do connect people with money who may want to support charitable causes to those causes that matter to them, but also causes that matter to the community. So all of our people live, work, and play in the Dufferin County area. This is a picture of our board and our committee members, as well as Debbie Goss, who is she gets actually paid a few hours a week just to keep us organized. So we're all community leaders. We all come from quite a range of backgrounds, but one thing that we all share in common is that we all are interested in building our communities. We're very fortunate in our community that we have people who are willing to step forward and support our charities with their cash and cash-like donations. One thing about community foundations is that money that comes into us doesn't necessarily support just one charity. It's very flexible. We can support any charitable cause in our community. And when I talk about charitable organizations, just remember too that towns are considered charities for the purpose of the Income Tax Act, because you can write charitable receipts. So it means that we can also partner with towns, or others can partner with towns to deliver services in your community. So donors can choose their particular cause. They can choose their particular field of interest. If they don't have one particular charity, they might have a general field of interest, such as supporting the environment, supporting arts and culture, and so on. Or they may designate a specific charity. So lots of different ways that they can support their charities or support their causes long into the future. When it comes to estate planning, we offer a lot of very tax efficient methods of managing estates. And it's one of the appeals of community foundations. So we do provide a service for donors. There are some donors who may consider setting up their own private family foundation or private charitable trust. Accountants now tell us that you should have in the range of $5 million if you're going to consider setting up your own private foundation in today's world. Within the community foundation, for as little as $250,000, a family can set up their own private family foundation and have some input into how that money is spent well into the future. So it's a permanent legacy of their name. Of course, you don't have to set up your own private foundation or your private fund. You can contribute to any of the funds that we have already set up. Charities are also recognizing that there's a substantial amount of money to be had from the state bequests and wills and so on. And some of them are considering setting up their own foundations to manage those. The community foundation has a ready-made solution for charities in that we're already set up. They don't have that cost to set up or cost to manage it. And we can manage a fund just for them forever and provide the income to them forever. There's an opportunity here for municipalities as well. We all know and can recount instances where individuals have left a legacy gift to one of the services that you may provide, such as a library or a museum, recreation, or long-term care facilities. We believe that if that money was directed to a community foundation, which is at an arm's length to the municipality, you would leverage more and larger gifts, and all the income from that would still go to support that particular cause. As I said, the municipalities are charities, so the money can legitimately flow through to support that cause. So we think it's something that you should think about and perhaps consider partnering with us down the road. What's going on here? Okay, so just a little bit of our achievements to date. We've got incorporated only in the beginning of 2018. We got our charitable status in late 2018. We did start in the fall of that year in giving out what we were calling then mini grants. We call them now booster grants. We give out 3 each year. They were $1,000 grants. This year, they'll be $1,500 grants. All of these grants are sponsored, generally sponsored by individuals or businesses within our community. And we will be doing it again this year. The grants are open now, actually, only for a couple more days. Actually, they close this week. And we'll be making a virtual presentation sometime in early October. In late 2019, we were honored by the Greenwood family by them placing or creating our first, what we call a donor advised fund within our community foundation. It basically is their private foundation. The objectives of their fund is primarily for youth services and poverty reduction. Funds such as these are what really drive community foundations in the long term. So that is our first one. We're quite happy to have that. But we also have a general purpose fund we call the Dufferin Vision Fund. Donations that go into this fund, again, are permanently invested, permanently endowed, and the interest from it we can spend. But the Dufferin Vision Fund allows a community foundation to address the area of greatest need in our community. So it allows us a great flexibility as things change over time or issues arise, we can direct the funds to those areas of greatest need. We are right now in the process of finalizing a couple of what we call field of interest funds. And one of these will be to support environmental causes. The other will be to support arts, culture, and heritage causes within our communities. So again, general field of interest that donors may want to park some money with. By the end of this year, we'll have distributed over $140,000 into our community. And you see, how can we have distributed that much so soon? Well, senior levels of government and national and international corporations have discovered that the Community Foundation Network, and there are almost 200 of us across the country, provides a very efficient and capable method of distributing money within the communities. So last fall, we were able to participate in the RBC Community Futures launch. This is a program directed at youth, people between the ages of 15 and 29, is to develop their leadership skills and also to get them interested and involved in giving something back to the community. We were able to give out $15,000 to 2 organizations within the county for youth-oriented programs, one for the DCAFs and one for Youthdale Riding Academy that has a youth program. In early winter of 2020, the federal government had launched an investment readiness program. This is money to help social enterprises, basically nonprofit organizations that may charge a small fee for their services, to build their capacity to grow into the future. We're happy to say that one of your very own local community organizations, Streams Hub, led by Andrew James, was able to access money from this program for his to get his project of an arts and culture center for Shelburne off the ground. The Dufferin Board of Trade was also able to access money from this to develop their Biz Center at their facility on Huckley Valley Road. And the Alton Mill Pond Association, although just outside of our community, got money to advance their ponds of rehabilitating the Alton Mill Pond. And of course, who can forget all of the COVID-19 issues of 2020? In April of 2020, the federal government announced something like $350 million that would flow into funds to support an emergency community support program to support charities and nonprofits across the country. Organizations that were impacted by COVID-19, either because they couldn't carry on their fundraising activities or because the need for their services increased substantially. United Way, Red Cross, and the Community Foundation Network were the distribution networks. Our allocation was $112,000, and we're happy to say that was all distributed in June and July to 13 charities within Dufferin County. Ironically, about 2 weeks before the federal government announced their emergency support program, we decided to create our own for local support to our local charities. And we have raised or committed $9,000 year to date. Our goal is to have $20,000 by year end to be able to distribute early in the new year to our local charities that may be financially strapped. We have already granted $3,000 to the food banks and to the hospital. We also enjoy wide community support. We have a corporate circle recognition program. We've got 4 members of that, one being the Greenwood Company, Dufferin County, Lord Dufferin Center, and Carter's law firm. We have 9 mini grant sponsors who have stepped up to support the $1,000 and now $1,500 grants annually. And we have a founders circle where gifts of $2,500 or more to help us establish a foundation, get us up and running. And we recognize them on I call it our wall. It's on our website. We have 18 donors listed there. I'm happy to say that 9 of them have come on in the last year. And I think that shows we've got a little bit of momentum of support coming our way. And yes, you will notice the town of Shelburne on there, as well as a couple other municipalities and many individuals that have stepped forward to support the cause. Our goal is to have $10 million invested within 10 years. CRA, the Income Tax Act, demands that we distribute a minimum of 3.5% of our invested money each year. That would be $350,000. We think we can do a little bit better than that. That we should be able to generate at least $400,000 from that amount of invested. And that amount of money would be distributed every year on forever to the charities within our community. That's our goal. We've started down that road. We currently have a little over $500,000 in our endowed funds, and we'll be starting to grant from those endowed funds in 2021. So what do we ask of you? Yeah, we know that you've been great supporters of us. We hope that you will continue to support us in our cause. Consider the Community Foundation for managing estates to support municipally funded organizations such as your library, or community centers, and so on. And you have a lot of contacts in your communities. We're always looking for board members and volunteers to sit on our committees. Please refer them our way, and of course, donors as well. You know, they always say the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. And that's what I'm trying to show in this last slide there. And that is my last slide. So if time permits, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Oh, and I'll get my screen back here.
Yeah, if we can just, oh, there we go. Excellent.
There we go. Okay, sorry.
Questions for Gord?
I have a question.
Yes.
Hi, Gord. How are you doing? Thanks for the presentation. I actually learned quite a bit, so thank you so much about that. You mentioned one of the charities that were able to benefit locally, Streams Hub.
Yes.
So for those who may be interested in availing themselves to funding, would they just go through you or contact the organization? How does that work?
So we will have grants available at certain times of the year. When we have grants available, we advertise them as being available. Primarily, we're doing that through social media and a fairly extensive email list. We think most of the charities covered within our community that we can directly email to them that grant opportunity is now open that may appeal to you. So it depends when the grant opportunities open up. As I say, right now the booster grants, $1,500 grant applications are open, but I think they're going to close something like September the 19th or something like that. But they can reach out to us through our website, dufferincommunityfoundation.ca. We have the information there, or our contacts are there as well, and they should feel free to reach out to us at any time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anything specific that you need in terms of support?
We need people. To be perfectly honest, we could use a couple more board members. We could use a couple more committee members. That's an important aspect at this point. And again, at this point, you have already stepped forward to support us as our founders circle. So we're not asking for additional cash at this time, but just your support and talking it up through your network of people is really what we're looking for.
Okay. Yeah, so if everybody could kind of put their feelers out amongst your contacts and see if you can drum up any interest. Okay.
People who are well community connected are great people because they know other people as well. People from financial planning, business, of course, would be good candidates because of the kind of business we're in, I guess, and managing money and so on. But people have a knowledge of the charitable sector are also good candidates. So that helps generate some ideas.
Any other questions? No? Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Gordon.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate the time that you've given us, and thank you for your support in the past, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
All
you.
right.
I know.
So can I get the presentation from the Dufferin Community Foundation for information? Seconder for that motion. Moved by Councillor Wagner, seconded by Councillor Buffett. All in favor? Carried. All right, council inquiries. Councillor Fee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've actually got a couple of them. First thing, and I mentioned this to Jennifer earlier on before the meeting started. We, I believe it was last year, set a curfew for our public parks. And I've had some inquiries from some of our SPD members in regards to that curfew, in regards to being able to enforce that curfew. The request is there a possibility in what is the procedures that we'd have to follow in order to post signage to enforce the, I believe it was 11 o'clock that we set for the curfew for the parks. If somebody could give me some information on regards to that.
Jennifer, did you?
I'd have to review the bylaw again. I'm not sure if signage is required to be posted in order to enforce the bylaw. I would think once it's in place and enacted, that police services should be able to enforce it regardless if signage is on the property or not. I'll have to pull up a copy of the bylaw and review it again.
Okay, is there something further that we can do then maybe to give the public more information so that we can have some more awareness of that bylaw that's in place?
Denise?
Certainly, but if the Shelburne Police have issues with the bylaw, if you could advise us who those concerns are coming from, staff are certainly happy to follow up directly with the police force.
Okay, maybe what I'll do is I'll direct them to contact staff directly then.
Yeah, I mean, we're aware of incidents we've recently had to unfortunately manage in one of our parks in particular. We've also discussed as staff the budget draft for 2021 and most likely expanding the recommendations that we'll present to council in terms of the installation of cameras in a number of our parks to help us with the monitoring that is so critical in many cases to follow up to unfortunate incidents. But to echo what the clerk said, the bylaw is in existence. So similar to speeding, once that is universally applied in our town, which it is enforceable. Whether or not it's enforceable through the fine permitting process, sometimes it's at the discretion of both our municipal bylaw enforcement officer or the police to provide education and a warning, and then take a discretionary approach going forward in how they're ticketed.
Okay, I think the biggest concern was awareness. So maybe what I'll do is I'll direct those officers to contact staff directly.
Thank you.
If I may, for a second one.
The deputy mayor and I can maybe raise that tomorrow at the police service board as well, because the police chief did speak in support of that draft bylaw before it was enacted. So I mean, if some misinformation, you can maybe officers as well. So okay, did you have another inquiry?
There is a second inquiry, yeah. So, okay, let's see if I can just share the screen here. Can everybody see that okay? Can everybody see that okay?
What are we looking at?
You're looking at a map of town from Owen Sound Street with Jane Street?
Okay.
Okay, so there is a concern raised, and this is actually a concern that I've personally witnessed as well. And more of an inquiry to Jim to see what we can do about this as far as what's required. With Jane Street right here, there is Shelburne Fresh Variety, fantastic little vegetable shop, farmer's market. The owner's a wonderful, wonderful individual. The business is fantastic. The issue that we have is that there are a lot of his patrons who will turn off of Owen Sound Street and literally park on the north side of Jane. Now, this does create a dangerous situation. And let me just show you a couple of pictures here. This I took as I was approaching Fresh Variety. So this is a typical scene that we would see as people are just turning on to Jane from Owen Sound. They will literally park right off the corner. A little further up, this is after I've parked on the south side of Jane. We've actually had a parking area paved already. So the north side of the street is just a regular street. South side, we do have a parking area, as you can see, where I'm parked, as well as this other car right here. So there is parking available for them. The question that I've got is there a possibility, and what would it take for us to create a no stopping zone in front of Fresh Variety, simply from Owen Sound Street to Willow? The issue that I have and the concern that I have is I have seen many, many times where, because there are times when this entire strip is loaded with cars, and anybody coming on from Owen Sound or trying to exit to Owen Sound, it becomes a very dangerous situation where I have seen cars almost get hit. Worse than that, I've also seen pedestrians almost be hit because the visibility is very much reduced once that happens. So what I'm proposing, or what I'd like to propose, is to find out what would it take to create a no stopping zone just on the north side of Jane Street from Owen Sound to Willow, just mainly for that safety issue.
Okay. Jim, do you?
Yeah, I suppose we could look at updating our no parking bylaw and including that section in there, and then we just have to sign it, and then bylaw could enforce it after that.
Okay, do you want a formal request then, Jim, for us to get direct staff to look into that to see what we need to do for that area?
Sure, that would be good.
Okay.
Right.
Can we get the regular screen back again, please?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Working on it.
If I can, Kyle, there's a mailbox on that side of the street, just near where that store is. A lot of people stop there to pick up their mail.
Yes.
And we create a full no parking in that area, we would have a problem with people picking up their mail as well. So that's a bit of a concern for me. The issue there is also that, yeah, Fresh Variety is great, but that used to be a variety store, a pizza place before it was a variety store. If I remember going back many years, it's been many different things. He's up the full parking spot that would have been proper parking for that area for flowers and whatnot. And that's why now people are stopping or parking there, one, to pick up whatever they pick up off of the, you know, if you want to pick up flower pots or whatever else. Sometimes they're heavy and you pick them up, you stop and you put them in your vehicle. That's why people stop there. And other times, like I said, it's for the mail itself. So there's a couple of concerns I have about saying no parking completely there. The south side doesn't provide enough parking in some cases, even for what people go there to shop, because they do shop for the flowers and whatnot.
If I may, can I share my screen 1 more second here? I've got another shot showing those mailboxes. So if you guys take a look here, so here's a shot of the mailboxes. They already have another paved area right here for parking for access to the mailboxes. So is in regards to parking for the mailboxes, I think this area right here should be accommodating for that because it's going to be a quick stop and you're still going to have the parking right here. If you're going to the mailbox, even just around the corner on Willow, should still be parking enough for that, I would think.
The problem with that though, again, if I can, Kyle, is that one, if he doesn't park the big trucks there or have the big truck delivery parked there, that is one issue. Second issue is people park there to go shopping, not just for mail. Because you're right, that parking spot is available, and my son lives right around the corner on Willow, so I drive up that street quite a bit as well. And I've seen people just park in that area for the shopping. Like, I understand what you're saying. It is sometimes dicey to go through there, but it's no worse than some of the other streets that we drive on in regards to people parking.
Okay, like I said, I mean, it's an issue that has been raised, and it is a concern that I did agree with. So I figured I'd bring it to council and see what everybody feels on that one.
Okay, now. Where's everybody?
Oh, air may be frozen.
The mayor has lost his connection.
They will have to-
Anderson, do you feel comfortable moving forward?
Where's he
There's-
from?
The best things are said when you're on mute. So I guess with respect to Councillor Fegan's inquiry, Councillor Fegan, I guess I'll leave it to you as to whether at Jim's request, whether you want to bring it as our formal notice of motion, I guess, later on the agenda. And if you wanted to get everybody's sort of view on it, then you could do that, and then we could discuss it at the next meeting, if you're okay with that.
That'd be fine. Sure, no problem.
I think that's probably the fair thing to do. I think Councillor Wedner, you had an inquiry yourself. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, Deputy Anderson. I guess the first thing I have is not really a inquiry. It's actually just to, I wanted to take a second and I wanted to thank our EDC coordinator for a wonderful drive-in family movie night on Saturday. It was well received and well attended, and I think everyone who attended had a great time and things were smooth. Parking was easy, everything was laid out. So I'd also like to give a great, great job and a thank you to our Public Works, because they worked really hard to make sure that everything was organized. And yeah, it was just a great night. So I just wanted to make sure that we acknowledge Public Works and our EDC coordinator for all the hard work and effort that they put in to provide the town with an event. My next, I guess, actual inquiry now. There's been some talk about, I guess, both the legality of volunteer fire departments and the potential lack of new community members knowing that or knowing what the green flashing light means. So I guess maybe if Jim can comment a little bit on this as to what we could maybe do to provide information to the town, notice, things like that could help to educate the new community members. And maybe even some of the, original community members that are growing up in the town now that maybe don't know about the green flashing light.
Yeah, I did touch base with the new fire chief, Ralph Snyder, this afternoon when you brought up the point. We do ourselves have a couple of signs around town. Ralph was going to look into he does have a line item or budget items for this. So he was going to look into possibly more signage that could be installed. He also was going to talk to the radio station to see if he could get them to put out a message there. We also have our signboards, one at the town hall, and the fire department has one on the fire station there too, that they were going to put a notice up on it. Ralph was also possibly going to put out an advertisement in the paper as well. So, but he said, yeah, if you have any concerns, please bring them up to him. And he's available at the fire hall daily. So.
That's awesome. Thank you very much.
If I can speak to that, Lindsay, a little bit. Those green flashing lights don't allow the volunteer firefighters to break any laws, though. They are allowed to come through as quickly as they humanly possibly can, but not break any laws regarding getting to the fire station. As far as knowledge of the public in regards to that, I know our fire chief Ralph has mentioned, and it'll have to through his budget process, and we are going through the budget process currently, and we have a board meeting somewhere in the future coming up. And I believe the town does have the ability through its agreement with the radio station to provide the ads at no cost. And I think that maybe because it is something concerning public, that the town maybe can do that rather than the fire board spending the money on something of that nature there, if possible.
I think I'm live again. I've changed locations in the building and hopefully have a stronger signal.
We just can't see you.
Yeah. Jennifer turned off my video because I was walking down the stairs, I assume, in case I fell. All right. So hopefully this will work. Okay. But are there any other inquiries?
I have one regarding, I was approached today regarding, and I mentioned it to the mayor, regarding the incident that happened at the park for pickleball, wondering about where the police inquiry on that was at, and wondering when the pickleball players would be able to get back onto the park to play, because the ice is coming in at the arena, and while they're able to utilize it and it's working out for them, once the ice is in, they won't be able to use it there anymore.
Do you want to tackle that?
Through the mayor, we are not able to discuss publicly a police investigation that took place with respect to that incident. And with respect to the utilization of the CDRC for pickleball and the ice, the group formally used the town and country room before they were assigned the ice surface, before the ice is scheduled to go in. That's all I can provide at this time.
Okay. All right. And forgive me if this was mentioned while I was offline, but two events recently in town that I think are worth noting. Last Thursday was the annual, what used to be known as the EDC golf tournament, which this year was the Rotary Splash Pad / EDC golf tournament. Very well attended. Councillors Bonato and Buffett and Fegan were all there. I think that was it. I think everybody else was tied up. Yeah, but the event was sold out. Last I heard, I think they've exceeded their goal of $10,000 for the splash pad, which is fantastic. The organizers certainly did a great job, and the folks at Shelburne Golf and Country Club did an outstanding job to accommodate everybody as well. The meals were served whole side, I guess you would say. They brought them out to us at 3 o'clock, and food was hot, tasty. It was great. So that was a great event. And then, of course, the drive-in movie. And again, if somebody else mentioned this, my apologies, but everybody that attended was very appreciative. Councillor Hall and myself and Carol Maitland's husband were running the gate. We had all kinds of food donations, more or less filled the back of my pickup truck, which was good, and some generous cash donations as well at the gate. So needless to say, I think that was a very welcomed event in the town, and something that we should perhaps pursue doing on a more regular basis in the future. So kudos to all of those involved. All right. Last call for inquiries before we move on to the regular agenda. Deputy Mayor Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor Mills. I just want to make a comment, and this is for Jim and his team. I just wanted to publicly thank them for bending over backwards, really, to accommodate the Shelburne Cricket Club and the request that they had with respect to the cutting of the fields on short notice. It was difficult times, I'm sure, but they did everything they could to accommodate the Shelburne Cricket Club on short notice. And then lastly, today, an inquiry came in with respect to the soccer fields, and Jim and his team were very responsive to accommodating that request. So I just want to thank you, Jim, and your team for the excellent work and being as responsive as you guys are all the time. So thank you.
Great. And just before we jump off of this, Deputy Mayor, I don't know if you brought this up while I was off or not, but how was the bus ride today?
We had a few seats that were available for you. We were waiting for you to come, but it was great. And there are a couple of things I'm going to bring up by way of notice of motion that I think will help enhance the experience for those who are going to ride eventually. But it was a smooth ride. I took it down to Orangeville with Carol. Mayor Sandy Brown met us in Orangeville, so we did the Orangeville route. But I mean, the vehicles were clean. They had the sanitizers in there. I mean, I couldn't speak highly enough for what the great County Transit Initiative has done, driver's seat as well, and all involved. It was just really a fantastic event today. So yeah, it was good.
Good stuff. Good. Okay, so on to the regular agenda. The first item is a report from the clerk regarding Bill 197. The procedural bylaw amendment, and a discussion regarding a return to in-person meetings. So Jennifer, if you want to lead us through that.
Thank you. Through your worship, I'll just do a high-level overview. On July 8th, 2020, the province of Ontario tabled Bill 197, known as the COVID-19 Economic Recovery Act. It received royal assent on July 21st, 2020. Schedule 12 of the legislation amends the Municipal Act to permanently allow for electronic participation in meetings. Prior to this change, electronic participation with voting and closed session participation has only been permitted as a result of legislation passed under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. As a result of further amendments to the town's, as a result of the new legislation, further amendments to the town's procedural bylaw are needed in order to continue to facilitate the current electronic participation process. The changes made to the Municipal Act are significant as it permanently allows for electronic participation in meetings outside of an emergency declaration. So this report was written a couple weeks ago, and so the paragraph on page 3 notes that as we continue to move forward into stage 3 of the Premier's reopening with regard to COVID-19, I'd like to note since the report was written, we've seen an increase in the number of positive cases over the last few weeks, with just recently the announcement of several Quebec cabinet ministers and mayors having to self-isolate after one of them has tested positive for COVID-19. So last week, Ontario announced it is pausing any further steps in its reopening plan due to the spike in cases. Earlier today, Premier Ford announced the case count is cause for concern and that another shutdown is not off the table. So also like to note that public engagement while offering an electronic virtual process has significantly increased by allowing residents and members of the public to view the live stream of the council meeting at their leisure on their own time, as opposed to providing an in-person session. So council last October approved the purchase of eScribe software. So the agreement included a camera to be installed to provide for live streaming of in-person council meetings. So unfortunately, that camera is not a mobile device. It cannot be moved from one location to another. It must be a permanent installation hardwired into our internet connection, as well as the town's server. I've been involved in some meetings since the emergency declaration that involve all clerks of lower tier Dufferin County. Currently, some of them are researching a hybrid approach to provide electronic and in-person meetings simultaneously. Well, Shelburne staff, myself and senior management, we're following along to see how that outcome takes place. However, the hybrid approach will come with additional costs, which would include an updated sound system. We currently have a sound system, but compatibility with new software and new equipment is questionable. The suggested prices so far are in the range of about $50,000 for a hybrid approach. With the potential for a second wave of COVID-19 in October, staff are recommending a very cautious approach to returning to in-person council meetings. This report recommends that council continue to hold electronic participation meetings for the remainder of 2020. This will also provide staff additional time to develop, prepare, and research additional opportunities for 2021 council meetings. So the proposed amendments to the procedural bylaw that are attached to the report as Appendix 3 are noted in the report. The procedural bylaw notes each item from A to K. Bill 197 also provides provisions to allow a member of council to appoint another member of council as a proxy to act in their place when they are absent, subject to the rules set out in the Municipal Act, and a process to be established by the clerk. In reviewing this new position to the provision to the Municipal Act, staff do not recommend moving forward with the implementation of proxy voting at this time, as the importance of transparency and decision-making on matters before council and participation in debate continues to be a priority throughout the obligations of council, local boards, and other committees outlined in the Accountability and Transparency Act. So we anticipate staff will continue to review procedural bylaw requirements, specifically electronic participation, as we proceed through the pandemic to ensure the procedures that are put into place remain applicable to our needs. And at the moment, there is currently no financial impact to continue our electronic participation process. We'll continue to investigate a hybrid approach for the provision of electronic and in-person council meetings simultaneously. And attached to the report, Appendix 1 is the new legislation, Bill 197. Appendix 2 is possible CDRC seating chart in the Town and Country Room, should a need be provided to hold a public meeting. The Town and Country Room can accommodate approximately 26 members of the public, as well as council and staff. Also attached to the report, Appendix 3, is the amendment to the procedural bylaw. This amendment rescinds the previous bylaw, 15-2020, which was to hold electronic participation meetings during a declared emergency. With the new legislation in place currently, that bylaw is no longer needed, so we'll repeal that. And if council chooses to tonight, we will enact the new bylaw 39-2020. That's the end of my report if you have any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the clerk? What level of direction are we getting from public health, Jennifer, in terms of this stuff, or you know, I know they're providing general advice, but are they, you know, making recommendations as to how local municipalities handle this sort of thing, or just leaving that up to each of us to decide?
They participate in the weekly meetings we have. We do have weekly emergency management control group meetings with county clerks and public health. And Steve Murphy, our emergency management coordinator. They participate in those meetings. What they are giving is recommendation and updates. They are not really providing any guidance or direction.
Okay.
That's a good question. Sorry, I had to be there for a second. Regarding the camera, all of our computers currently have cameras. We're all visible because that's the way they see us on Zoom. And you mentioned that the camera cannot move from place to place. That's for the public, because council's already on with Zoom, and I'm assuming that if we're doing a meeting, a hybrid or any other style of meeting, we're still doing it through Zoom or some program of that app of that nature there, so that the public can continue to see us. Am I correct in that thought process?
So that camera is for in-person council meetings only. It does not incorporate the Zoom software.
So how are you getting you're getting it through YouTube out to the public? Like, how's it getting out to the public?
So the live stream process goes through the eScribe software.
Through YouTube or whatever other process?
And through YouTube, that's correct.
So that's only if we're using eScribe in regards to meeting. Like, if we're continuing currently to the end of 2020 for a Zoom style meeting, is there any reason why council itself cannot gather together in some place as long as they're far enough apart as per the regulations to meet? Because we're still zooming out to the public and the public's still participating. Whether I'm sitting in my kitchen, you know, participating in the meeting, or whether I'm sitting in, say, the meeting room at the CDRC or the fire hall or any other place with the rest of the council, correct?
Correct. So the difficulty, I saw Councillor Fegan's hand up. The difficulty with having all of council in the same room on a Zoom platform is feedback. You would get constant echoing of everyone's voice. It would not stream properly. You would not be able to hear it or understand what's being discussed.
And how, sorry, I'm being a little confused. How is that different than when you have eScribe and the rest of it going with the camera? Whether the public hears feedback or whatnot from my voice or everybody else's voice. How do you stop that from happening with other programs?
The eScribe camera is for in-person meetings. And so when we're in an in-person meeting, we would not be on the Zoom platform.
It's the Zoom platform itself that's creating the issues, what you're saying, not necessarily.
Maybe Councillor Fegan can.
Sure. Yeah, we'll seek some technical advice from Councillor.
The problem, Walter, is that with the Zoom, what we're doing is we've got multiple cameras in the same room. What you're asking is if we could do the Zoom platform in the same room while we're still meeting face to face. Because there are so many cameras in the room, all of those microphones will be picking up the same sounds at the same time. And that's where you're going to create that loop. When you're hearing a sound from one space and then it goes broadcasting through that same speaker, what happens is it then amplifies, and that's what creates your feedback.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but if we mute, when the microphones are all muted, there's no feedback.
Correct. The reason the eScribe would work is that it would be one single camera and one single microphone.
Yeah. And I think that the point is, we've talked about this at the emergency control group at some length. You know, the point is, once that eScribe software is set up in a permanent location, you know, where we're going to be holding our meetings once we do get back to in-person meetings, you know, then that's great. You know, that can be broadcast to our YouTube channel and everything else. Because it's not a mobile unit, what staff is suggesting is that, you know, we're not piecemealing this, particularly when we're getting advice from public health to say a second wave is expected in October. You know, why go to the effort to try to find a temporary location, install this camera in some sort of, you know, temporary long-term use, only to find out that we're going to have to pull the plug and go back to go back to remote meetings for a period of time anyways. So Councillor Wagner had her hand up, and then I see Denise as well. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Mills. I guess what I'm sort of taking from Walter's inquiry is maybe, is it possible if we were in the room, like in order to reduce the $50,000 fee, potentially for a hybrid opportunity, what if we had, you know, say like one iPad that was connected to Zoom or something like that, that was recording us in the room speaking, and that was then broadcasted. Is that even possible? I don't know. I'm not technically inclined that way.
So that's what we're currently researching at the moment, is that hybrid approach to try and have that electronic recording live stream to YouTube while holding an in-person meeting as well. That would be that hybrid approach that we're waiting to see. I'm not sure that the on your iPad, the video or the microphone is strong enough to pick up everyone's voices and would not pick up on everyone's face who's speaking.
Denise?
Through the mayor, I think for the people that are viewing, I just should say I sound like a robot because I'm still stuck a bit. Losing my teeth. So what I'd like to say is that, as the clerk mentioned, I think the key message that staff have, I guess, conveyed in this report is that we believe, similar to other municipalities, that a very cautious approach is very beneficial. The reason is not only was the example of what happened in Quebec last week outlined, there was the experience in late August of a small town in British Columbia where a presenter had COVID-19, which then impacted all of the existing council and their senior staff that attended that meeting to be isolated for 14 days. So that's why we're recommending a cautionary approach for the rest of this year, and we'll provide you with the opportunity to meet. But I think really what we need to do as well is go through a checklist of the benefits of meeting in person and why, what the cautions and the risk is associated with that, and whether or not proceeding and how to return to in-person meetings in a structure that's safe and a building that can accommodate us. As the clerk added to her appendixes, is we have reviewed the utilization of the Grace Tippling Hall, which is a lower cost, as well as a format at the CDRC and the Town and Country Room, which is really our only two choices. So to Councillor Bonato's point, certainly we can look at all of the technology and how to best support that, but we have heavily invested in the last year in eScribe, and we certainly don't want to duplicate those costs during a transition period. As difficult as it is, and the challenges that we may face with the Zoom platform, it has provided us with not only a safety element, but it is still functional. And as the clerk's report mentioned, not that we didn't have great participation in our small chambers, but we've seen significant uptake in people live streaming, watching a live stream, as well as watching it after the fact at any time they like. So sorry, that was just to help provide some more context.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
If I can, I'm not disagreeing with the people that are watching during the meeting or after the meeting, which I think is great, that the fact that they are watching it. The differential, I think, is the fact that when we're meeting in person and when and if it's humanly possible that people can be there, there's a differential in the dynamic than not provided through the Zoom meeting. And I think that's part of my issue with Zoom. If you have, when you have a question period and you have to submit your questions ahead of the meeting, you have to read, and hopefully you are reading the agenda to submit those questions, but sometimes while you're there and you have the agenda, you have the thought process in your head and the questions you want to ask. I think some of that is missing, because I noticed that a lot of our meetings, no questions are asked. No questions are asked during question period, nothing submitted. So that's maybe what I'm kind of thinking is gone. Not that I've always liked question periods. Some of it's been uncomfortable from time to time with some of the questions that have been asked, but in all honesty, they're not being asked.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's a fair point. Yeah. Councillor Bonato, you and I have talked about this at some length, and I mean, yeah, the bottom line is, I mean, I prefer an in-person meeting too, but you know, given the situation right now, and particularly given the fact that, we're seeing numbers increasing instead of decreasing through much of the province, and getting advice from public health that we should be expecting, in all likelihood, to see some form of a second wave in October. I tend to side with staff that, right now, I think the wise thing to do is take a cautious approach and sort of ride this out in the fashion that we are, because that at least ensures the safety of the 7 of us, as well as our staff team, because all it would take is one instance to, essentially sideline all of us for, a period of at least 14 days. And then that has, serious consequences with respect to the continuity of business at town hall. So, although it's not ideal, I think all of us can make it work for another couple of months, and hopefully get through whatever second wave we may be facing, and we'll come out on the other side in a better position. Denise, did I see your hand again?
But to Councillor Bonato's point, there's certainly a staff, we respect and appreciate how critical public participation is. We certainly will go back and discuss whether or not there's an opportunity to have some adjustment to the timeline to submit your public questions. If we can extend that, we'll certainly get back to you to make it more, I guess, advantageous for someone to get that in and not have a time limit on how that participation can be accommodated, but we'll certainly discuss that.
Great, thank you.
Okay. All right, so the draft motion reads as follows: be it resolved, the council receives report LS 2020-03 from the clerk for information, and the council will continue to hold electronic participation meetings for the remainder of 2020 while staff continues to develop, prepare, and research additional opportunities for 2021 council meetings. And further, that leave be given for the reading and enacting of bylaw number 39-2020, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 15-2019 to govern the proceedings of council and its committees to permit meetings to be held electronically. I have a mover and seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Fegan, seconded by Councillor Wagner. Any additional discussion on that? All in favor? Okay. Any opposed? That's carried. All right. Okay, so that takes us to our report from our Director of Development and Operations regarding sidewalk replacement. So, Jim, do you want to walk us through this one?
Through your worship, as mentioned with last month's report on asphalt for 2020, we did update our roads needs and sidewalk study this year. So it prioritizes the sidewalk sections with the minimum maintenance standards. The RFQ was advertised and distributed on August 7th and closed August 27th. We received 2 submissions. One from C&G Concrete, which is Appendix 1, and the second was from Construction ET Incorporated, Appendix 2. The quotes do include a description of the type of work and the related repairs that would be needed. Both companies have been in business for 20 plus years. C&G Concrete of Shelburne, it came in at $52,089.33, and that's inclusive of our 1.76% that's non-recoverable HST. And Concrete ET Inc. Mississauga came in at $132,778.18. So it would be staff's recommendation that we accept the submission from C&G Concrete being the lowest quote. This does bring us in our line item at general operating sidewalk lane repairs within our budget of $60,000. So this does have us in standing with our municipal procurement policy. And that is it.
Okay, great. Any questions for Jim? Councillor Wagner.
Just a quick question. With the list of sidewalks that has been proposed, I didn't notice the Legion portion on there. Is that ever going to take place? There's a little paved area there in front of the Legion that we've kind of discussed it a couple of times, whether or not it was going to be addressed.
Yes, it's not included in this, but I believe Jennifer's been in contact with the Legion, and we're also in contact with Coppertone Paving that was going to do the work. I know they seem to be a bit backlogged because I have been trying to get them in for some repairs over in the Greenbrook subdivision phase 8 up there. So yeah, as soon as we hear something back from them, then we'll have more information.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
And I think that was the plan, that corner was going to be asphalted instead of like a section of sidewalk put through, so that the whole corner will kind of be asphalted. Okay. Councillor Bernardo?
I noticed Canfield, the walkway is on there to be done. And what about the fence on both sides? Because it's in pretty poor shape.
Yeah, we did. I did get a quote from Simcoe Fencing on that. So we're going to have to do it in 2 stages. They'll come in and remove the sidewalk that's there now. We'll get the fence down. Once they've got everything rebased in there, because we did pop one of those panels up, and that was definitely what the issue was. There's no base material in there really to speak of. So it was just basically concreted right over top. And once they have that back in place, we'll have them in, put the posts in for the fence, and then they'll have to come back after everything is finished and stretch the chain link back out again. But we do have a quote on that from Simcoe Fence already. So.
And the other thing I would like to ask is, we are going to shut that down to the public for walking across once we lift those panels off, because I know a lot of school kids use that as a shortcut to get to from Canfield Port and from Greenwood.
Yeah, we will have to coordinate right off, because it'll be some fairly substantial work in there with all the base material that needs to be replaced and packed and everything else. You just don't want anybody in there with that equipment in that tight area. So.
And will it affect the sidewalk on Canfield and Park as well?
It doesn't appear to. It seems to be based well there. So yeah, they're just blend it right back in with the rest of the sidewalk. So.
No, but I'm thinking about the work. When you're working, it's going to affect those 2 sidewalks when you're doing the work on the walkway?
Yeah, there will be panels on each end where they do intersect that, yeah, they'll have to be cordoned off there too. So, but we'll make sure that they have caution tape out, or the barricades and everything else, just so nobody gets in there.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anything else for Jim? Okay. Give a motion, be it resolved, the council receives report DO 2020-03 regarding sidewalk replacement. 20 RFQ results from the Director of Development and Operations as presented and circulated, and that C&G Concrete be awarded the 2020 contract for sideway replacement for the town of Shelburne in the amount of $52,089.33 net HST. A mover and seconder for that, moved by Councillor Buffett, seconded by Councillor Bernardo. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. All right. So next is consideration of a bylaw to appoint an alternate member of council for county council in the event that either the deputy mayor or myself are not able to attend. I had mentioned this at a previous meeting, and the clerk advised that we do have to formally adopt a bylaw to do that. So that the bylaw is included in the package with the name being left blank. I know Councillor Bernardo has expressed an interest in that. Are there any other members of council that are interested in it, or is everybody satisfied with appointing Councillor Bernardo as the alternate? Okay. Sounds like you've got yourself another job, Councillor Bernardo. Okay, so I guess, Jennifer, will you just fill Councillor Bernardo's name in the bylaw that I sign then?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. All right. So the motion then reads, be it resolved that leave be given for the reading and enacting of bylaw number 38-2020, being a bylaw to appoint an alternate county councillor to represent the town of Shelburne at the council of the county of Dufferin. The mover and seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Hall, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson. All in favor? That's carried. Excellent. Congratulations, Walter.
Hopefully you do continue to go.
Okay, next is a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Grey County for the purpose of establishing bus stops within the town of Shelburne. Jennifer, did you want to speak to that at all, or I mean, it's fairly self-explanatory.
Yes, it's fairly self-explanatory, Your Worship, and we just need to establish and enter into the agreement with Grey County so that those stops are recognized and established, registered on title.
Excellent. So the motion reads, be it resolved that leave be given for the reading and enacting of bylaw number 40-2020, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with the Corporation of the County of Grey for the purpose of establishing bus stops within the town of Shelburne. Mover and seconder by Councillor Bernardo, seconded by Councillor Wagner. All in favor? Carried. Excellent. And finally, a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Her Majesty the Queen for the Connecting Links contribution program. So this is just the Connecting Link money that was announced previously. This is just the formal agreement that goes with that. So the motion on this one reads, be it resolved that leave be given for the reading and enacting of bylaw number 41-2020, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Ontario for the Connecting Links contribution program. Moved by Councillor Fegan, seconded by Councillor Hall. All in favor? Carried. Excellent. Okay, so that takes us to councillor motions. There are some notices of motion tonight, I believe. So who wants to start?
I sent 2 in to Jennifer. I believe she may have copies of them.
Okay.
Jennifer?
Just to be clear, Councillor Bernardo, you have to read those into the record.
I have to read them into the record.
Yes.
You have them in front of you there?
I can bring them up.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think Deputy Mayor Anderson had mentioned earlier that you have one. So Walter, while you're bringing it up, I'll jump
No,
over.
I don't mind written.
Got it?
Yeah, I've got it. It's moved by myself, seconded by Linda Buffett. Due to the many requests by seniors for seniors residents over the course of many years, and whereas the provincial government has enacted an act allowing for such to proceed outside of the normal framework under policy 2.2.84 and 2.2.86 of the growth plan 2019 for seniors residents and commercial users. Therefore, be it resolved that council directs staff to work with all agencies and senior government to assist Plateau Development to all required approvals to build a seniors resident small commercial so that it may be started as soon as possible. And furthermore, that staff bring back to every council meeting a progress report. I read it. That's one. Do you want the other one?
Sure. If you have it ready.
I have it. I have it as well. Ready to go. Moved by myself, seconded by Steve Anderson. Be it resolved that the council directs staff to accept Plateau Development's official plan amendment application being a privately initiated urban boundary expansion. Policies 2.2.84 and 2.2.86 of the growth plan 2019 for proposed seniors residential and commercial uses. For the lands generally located at the northeast quadrant of the 4th line Highway 89 intersection, and to commence processing the application as soon as possible, and that council authorizes staff to work with Plateau Developments on the servicing options for the proposed development, including borrowing from industrial, commercial, institutional, and or residential reserve capacity. And that both engineering and planning review the motion to see if and when any of the above requirements can be done to meet the needs of Plateau Development for a senior resident. That's it.
Okay. All right, Deputy Mayor Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor Mills. So I do have a couple, as I mentioned previously. This is hopefully to enhance the ridership experience after having the opportunity to ride it today. So I thank you, Mayor Mills, for reminding me about that experience today. And for those who are listening, it is, I've been told to advise our public that they are hiring for drivers. So for those who are listening and want to take advantage of the opportunity, you can go to the Town of Shelburne website and find the contact information for driver's seat. That being said, so I got a couple here, as I mentioned. So one is, be it resolved that council direct staff to, and some of this I may add, maybe already in the works. I know Jim is online, but I figured that a formal motion would be appropriate by way of direction. But in any event, be it resolved that council direct staff to remove the parking spot ahead of the northbound bus stop to eliminate safety or liability exposure to the town. So if council is aware of where the stops are located, there's one right by the IDA, right in front of the park area there. When the vehicle pulls in, a part of the vehicle is actually extending beyond the curb. So there's a sightline issue there and safety. And so when we were riding it, it was being pointed out by the representative from Grey County and from the driver of the vehicle himself with respect to having additional space to ensure that the vehicle is properly situated and that they're not blocking sight lines, and we're not causing a safety concern or issue for the members of our public. So that's obviously open for discussion. And again, Jim may be already looking into this already. The second one is, be it resolved that council directs staff to insert what are called the chevron or skipped lines or sketched lines, whatever you want to call it, to highlight the stop locations within the town and to provide lighting at each stop to illuminate the stop for ease of convenience and safety for our riders or potential riders. And again, speaking with the Grey County representative and those that were part of the trip today, this would, I think, enhance the stop location. We know that in the wintertime, it's going to get dark really soon. So for those who are catching the bus 7 o'clock in the morning and onwards, we'll have that light there for, again, it'll be easy to see the stop and may provide some level of safety and comfort for those who are riding. And then lastly, be it resolved that council directs staff to report back on the cost options of what I'll call a bus shed or shelter for the various stop locations in town. And I'm not expecting, obviously, what we see in Toronto or in Mississauga or Brampton, those large Zoom with the LED screens, but some sort of temporary structure that would provide some protection for those who'd be using the stop. If the whole idea is to encourage ridership, I think when it comes to the winter months, I think that would sort of go a long way in accommodating the riders. So those are the three that I have. Thank you for listening.
Okay.
By the way, I second all three of them for Steve.
Okay. All right. Excuse me. Any other notices of motion? Councillor Fegan.
I might as well put it just so that Jim has some formal direction. Be it resolved, the council instructs staff to investigate creating a no stopping zone on the north side of Jane Street from Owen Sound to Willow and bring back a report to council by, and Jim, is October 5th council meeting enough time for you?
Yes, that should be good. Yes.
Okay. All right. So those notices of motion will be considered at the next regular council meeting. Okay. So next up, several items of communication. There are 14 items that are listed that were included in the agenda package. Anything that anybody would like to deal with independently? No? Okay, if not, look for a motion just to receive those items as a collective. Councillor Bernardo, seconder for that. Councillor Fegan, all in favor? Great, thank you. No closed session this evening. Takes us to our confirming bylaw. Be it resolved that leave be given for the reading and enacting of bylaw number 42-2020, being a bylaw to confirm certain proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Shelburne for its regular council meeting held September 14th, 2020. Moved by Councillor Hall, seconded by Councillor Buffett. All in favor? It's carried. And just before we adjourn, just a reminder that we do have another council meeting scheduled for next Monday, which will be almost an exclusive planning meeting. Just dealing with several planning matters. We called that as a special meeting so that we're not prolonging unnecessarily our regularly scheduled council meetings. We can get all of those planning matters dealt with in one night. So with that, I would ask for a mover and seconder for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Buffett, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson. All in favor? It's carried. All right. Thank you all. Have a good night. And we'll see some of you later in the week, and the rest of you, I'll see you next Monday. Take care.